I saw that we had a good conversation.
Live.
Right, well, good evening and welcome members, officers, and those members of the public here at the meeting and those joining us virtually. Item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence, Tom. Firstly,
Thank you, Chair. Apologies received from councillors Chris and Lauren White, councillor Inch, councillor John, and councillor Piper.
thank you. Item 2 is to confirm the minutes. We've got 2 sets of minutes. The first one, the 19th of February, and the second one, the 11th of March. So I'll take the 19th of February first of all, page 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Someone like to propose them? That's a lot. Councillor James seconded. All in favour, please show. Against? And abstentions?
22 for and 3 abstentions to it.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the minutes on the 11th of March. Starting at page 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. Mr. Brendan?
Chair, I just want to say that I do feel that the summaries of the comments made by the councillors about the devolution project and the CCA, they're not really strong enough, and they don't really reflect how much consternation there was and concern about what we're going to have to look forward to with this new devolution project that's going ahead. I just want to say, I don't think it really truly reflects how concerned most of the councillors here were.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, would someone like to propose them? Councillor Hackett proposed it. Councillor James seconded it. All in favour, please show. And against? And abstentions?
Chair, that's 24 and 6 abstentions, please.
Thank you, Tom. Item 3, moving on then, is public contributions. We've got 2 public speakers. The first is Mr. Jim Steer. There you go. Sorry.
Yeah, over there. Okay.
You want me to have one
For you.
Well, 3 minutes starts when you start speaking.
Thank you, Doug. Good evening, councillors. Firstly, may I formally thank you all who attended the inaugural meeting of the Northern Devon Railway Development Alliance in Bideford on Friday, the 1st of March, and heard much about the public transport injustice that the constituents and local businesses and industries are experiencing, and which continues to drive investment down and car ownership and usage up. Secondly, I wish to thank you all for your commitment so far, with a motion in June 2022 to support the extension of the railway line, and through adoption in December 2023 of the strategic plan, with the addition under a local economy, investigate with the relevant partner organisations the appetite to jointly commission and fund a study to evaluate the economic and environmental benefits and impacts of re-establishing a rail link. And then in January 2024, agreed funding from this year's Shared Prosperity Fund for feasibility studies, including Bideford Railway study, to work alongside key stakeholders. Further funding towards a strategic outline business case has been applied for, supported by the council's most welcome match funding contribution, and I will come back to this council when I have confirmation on grant funding. The present narrative suggests that the Greater Bideford area is struggling on a social economic level that ranks the district as one of the nation's poorest areas. Low quality transport is one of the reasons why this story will now work with and towards the Levelling Up Partnership Place Board. A rail link to Bideford would map a path to investment and give the Torridge district a strong modal shift to sustainable transport. One fact I allow this room to know is that this area of Devon is now in the nation's top 50 most congested towns and cities, and the high car dependency is of course connected to the 40% of residents that commute out of the district for work. Finally, I hope the motion to join the Northern Devon Railway Development Alliance by Councillor Haynes is favoured by the councillors, as it was to join the Ace Rail campaign by the late great Torridge Vice Chair, Councillor Christie. Membership of the wider alliance of stakeholder organisations applies no more at this early stage than to follow through to the council's previous decisions to support the principle of a new rail link and the necessary investigations into the feasibility of that aspiration. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity.
Thank you, Tim. 10 seconds to spare. Well done. And our second speaker is Mr. Willets, Mr. D. Willets.
Good evening. The minutes that you've just approved for the March meeting were incomplete. In particular, the items referring to the points that I was raised to the council about the way in which the approaching the Levelling Up grant audit. That has then since been proved by the fact that the North Devon Council have complained bitterly that they have been misled over the Levelling Up grant. And then finally by the point raised by the MP saying Saxby, that North Devon is basically out of the Celtic Sea project now, with a loss of thousands of jobs. I don't know if this is only true for the council, but you just have to realise that, you know, to get this grant, you've got to actually prove your point. And the fact that the Place Board first meeting appointed Paul Coles, the operations CEO of the South West Business Council, as its chair to act as lead member and guiding the audit, is completely misleading. These people, and particularly the whole structure, have no background at all in anything to do with Levelling Up grant. In actual fact, they only started in 2022. Then they disappeared for 2 years, and are presently the only projects they're working on are cycling and walking. If you think this is going to get the council your Levelling Up grant, then I'm sorry, you're sadly misled. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Willets. Then moving on to item 4, declarations of interest. Well, we all know that by now. Please declare it when the agenda item comes up. Item 5, agreement of agenda items part 1 and 2, the Arnold part 2 items. Item 6, to consider correspondence brought forward by the chair. I have nothing. Item 7, private sector leases. Addition to the capital programme, pages 19 to 29. And Peter Hudson, I thought was going to do this, but you're going to do it, all right? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So councillors will be aware that one of the solutions we have available to us to help those at risk of homelessness is to enter into lease for private homes. Due to an accounting change, as from the 1st of April, what was previously classed as revenue spend is in future classed as capital spend. That means that we need to get an increase in the capital programme to adapt for the use of these private sector leased homes. So there's no increase to the cost of the council in total. It just means that something that was previously classed as a revenue cost and was in the revenue budget, as from the 1st of April, we have to class this capital spend. So this change will enable us to continue this scheme. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So purely a technicality then. Okay, well, I'll propose that from the chair. Can I second it? All in favour, please show. Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, item 8, public space protection order, antisocial behaviour and alcohol consumption, pages 30 to 38, and to receive a report of the public health and community safety manager, Bill Gilbert. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Chair. So councillors will be aware that we currently have a public spaces protection order, or PSPO, and Centre of Bideford. Purpose of this report is to seek variation and extension of the existing PSPO. The PSPO is made under section 59 of the Anti-Social Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act 2014. The main variations that we are proposing is an updating of the language to ensure clarity. Those updates came about via a consultation with the police and policing teams, and updating the time frame within which it is an offence for people who have been dispersed to return to the specified area. So currently that is 6 hours. You can't return within 6 hours if you've been dispersed. We are proposing to change that to 24 hours. The change is consistent with other Devon authorities with a similar offence in their PSPO, and particularly it brings us in line with North Devon's PSPO. So it's helpful for the police working across the force area, as it introduces a consistent approach in this regard across the Community Safety Partnership members. The process to vary and extend the PSPO is prescribed by the Anti-Social Behaviour, Crime and Policing Act and must include a relevant consultation and relevant publication. These are outlined in the report. And further to the report, it says I'll provide feedback on further comments to the consultation. There haven't been any, so there is no further feedback. So the recommendation is that the PSPO in relation to street drinking control and ASV for the specified area in Bideford is varied and extended in line with the proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I open it up, the map that you show on page 38 doesn't include the market site. You know, the area that is potentially going to be transferred to the rugby club in the future. Could that line be extended over to actually include that?
We could, but the PSPO has to be based on evidence. So what we tend to do is we consult closely with the police, partners in the police, around the evidence for the PSPO. I think it would probably be more appropriate in the future to change it once the change of use has come about, if we have issues.
Okay, Councillor Hicks, you had your hand up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I brought this to your attention, and that answer we just received from the officer is sliding over it beautifully. How many complaints have they had about people playing on the rugby field? Yet that's included.
I can't give you specifics on complaints about the rugby field per se. All I would say is the area was chosen based on the evidence of antisocial behaviour complaints in that area, which helpfully have reduced over the time period of the PSPO, which is good news. So over the time period of the PSPO, complaints of instances of antisocial behaviour seen by our CCTV operatives have reduced by 54% in the PSPO area. So we're looking at a success from that regard.
I suppose the important thing really, I suppose, is that at some point in the future, if we want to include that area within this public space, public order, it's not a big deal to do that.
It's not a big deal, or to revise the area if we have evidence that says actually there's been nothing in that area, so we can take that out of it, and that's fine. What we don't want to do with the PSPO is create an area and then push that antisocial behaviour into areas just outside that area, and that field, the rationale behind that, I don't know it, but I would imagine the rationale behind that was if we leave that out, people will just gravitate to that field as an open space.
Councillor Brenton?
Thank you, Chair. Well, as we live just outside in Medden Street, on the wrong side of the street, really, so we can look forward to it all coming over our, and we either that or we can carry on misbehaving as we always have done. I suppose that my only concern with all this is fine. It's enforcement, isn't it? That is going to be the problem, isn't it? I mean, some of these areas here, you don't get a lot of trouble there, but also, you know, how you enforce it, I really don't know. Not with the police numbers we've got at the moment, so as we wait to see.
I think on that subject, I'll be with you in a second, Councillor. On that subject, I understand that our own officers are authorised to do that, and they have been out with the police on a few occasions, and I understand, I certainly hope that they're going to go out a lot more with the police to actually get more up to speed on exactly how to deal with some of the challenging individuals that we seem to have in the town with regard to drinking. Councillor Donald first.
Oh, thank you. I've had representation from a lady living in the town, and she has had incidents of people defecating in her doorway regularly, and has phoned me in regard to my capacity on licensing committee. So how do you join up the enforcement of this Antisocial Behaviour Act or area, and do you work with licensing? Because the two go hand in hand to some degree, and I know this lady has had an ongoing problem for several years, so it sort of implies that you can make the area whatever you want, but frankly is not actually making any difference. I don't know how we change that. Have you got any ideas?
So I would say first, we think it is making a difference. So we do feel we have evidence of that reduction. So across the force area, there's been a reduction for police statistics in antisocial behaviour, and our own operatives have witnessed a reduction in antisocial behaviour. So it is making a difference. That said, there are always going to be cases where, and people do need to be there to witness it. So this is, I suppose, goes back to the point Councillor Bushby made. That we do patrol the area as often as we can. We've recently instigated a new way of doing that with our officers. We're going to be carrying out more joint patrols with the police in that area. Whenever it becomes available, we will bid for funding for patrols in that area as well, and those funding bids do come up occasionally. So as and when funding bids come available, we will bid for them. Whether we're successful or not is another matter, but we absolutely will bid. And that will help. I can only stress, and I know some people do see it as pointless, but it really isn't. We really do need to report these instances. So the feedback to members of the public has to be, please report it, because what it does is it adds to the statistics. Even if it's not necessarily being resolved on that occasion, then that bolsters our case for bidding for funds in future for that area if there's a problem. Whereas if they're not reported, then they just don't go down as a number.
Councillor Hicks, you wanted to come back there, did you? And then I'll take it forward.
Yes, I do, Mr. Chairman. The answers we've had are a case, I believe, of that we've done this paperwork, let's get it through. And I say that because looking at the plan, I noticed the seal's already on it. So it would be just inconvenient to have to redo the plan and redo the seal. I'm sorry, that piece of ground that I'm talking about has had travellers on the path regularly. So to say that it's not, come up in scrutiny, I just don't accept it. I'm going to propose acceptance of the report, but including the Muga area, which is being transferred to the rugby club. I'll second, Chair.
Okay, I'll come back to that. Councillor Ford, you have your hand up?
Yeah, well, actually, just following on, I think councillor hit the nail there anyway, actually, making common sense as usual. I'm gonna point out the obvious and actually best of luck because we need to try to do things anyway, so I'm not being at all, you know, anti what you're trying to achieve here. However, we can have rules, legislation, acts, and if people don't enforce it, total waste of time. And it's right on about having more police, quite frankly, yes, we do, we also need better police, quite frankly, because, well, I think you see, we've got another one that's up in, on the 18th of this month, you know, Devon Cornwall, they just a met. So we've got to leave it, I commend what you're trying to do, and we have got to try to make a difference. But my Christ, if, our police force are the best that we got, God help us all.
Okay, oh, sorry. Councillor Allen?
Thanks, Chair. Well, this report, I think, makes awful reading when you look at it, because when you look at the figures for the last 12 months in Bideford, the number of police logged between January 2023, January 2024, it notes that the Key has the highest number of calls for any given location in the Torridge area, the Key in Bideford. The High Street in Bideford comes second and Mill Street's third. Nearly 300 instances of antisocial behaviour. And when you look at what's actually been prosecuted, we've got one breach of a dispersal notice that we're handling at the minute, and there's been 31 dispersal notices. Now, the bottom line is there are no police in Bideford. You don't see them ever. And that until the police actually start patrolling on foot in these areas, you're never going to stop the antisocial behaviour, which is a big problem for a lot of people in our area. And there's no second, I mean, it's all right, our council officers, when you said about going out on patrol with the police, well, you find the police on patrol. You know, you don't find any policemen to go on patrol with. And I've said it every time I get the chance about issues to do with the police. We should have the police walking around on foot. Then you'd stop any antisocial behaviour. Look at the bus shelters on the Quay in Bideford. I think everyone's got those expensive, unbreakable, supposedly, glass panels missing. We've got CCTV cameras stuck up there, which do nothing, but cost us a lot of money. But they don't do anything. It's, you know, I've seen the list of so-called reports through those cameras, and they don't do anything. So until the police actually get out the cars and start walking on foot like they used to, this will never reduce. And I was surprised to hear you say it has reduced, because with 300 cases in 12 months, to me, it's unbelievable, that.
Thank you. Thank you, councillor. I'm sure there's quite a few around the table that take on the comments that you've made, but the real issue here is that, you know, if we don't adopt this, it's one less weapon that the police can use to target the individuals that do cause an awful lot of mayhem in the town. So, you know, by adopting this with the amendment that's been suggested, I would agree with, then at least when there is an issue within the town and the police are called, they can cite this public space protection order, they can confiscate drink, and they can move people on. But without an order like this,
can't find this, Chair.
without an order like this in place, it just means that they've got their other arm tied behind their back, as well as having, you know, already having one there. So, you know, I mean, we've got the report in front of us. I think we should definitely accept the recommendation. I agree with what Councillor Hicks has said, with the addition of that extra red line to include the old cattle market site, because, you know, it is within an area which, you know, potentially will be giving us problems in the future. Any other speakers on it before we go to the vote? Oh, sorry, you proposed that amendment, Councillor Hicks, didn't you?
Yes, councillor Paddington second.
Right. So we vote on the amendment first, then, right? Vote on the entire thing. Okay, all with the amendment, all in favour, please show. And against? Abstentions?
Chair, that's 27 for and 1 abstention.
Thank you. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you.
Okay, item 9, Local Government Association Model Council Code of Conduct, pages 39 to 66. And Stacey is already on the podium to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. I haven't got much to add apart from the Standards Committee considered the Local Government Association's Model Code of Conduct, which is attached to the report. They've recommended to full council that we adopt that model code, subject to a small amendment that councils with resources also include email addresses. I'll hand over to the Chair of Standards.
Councillor Back.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you very much, Stacey. A lot of work's gone into this, both from the monitoring officer's point of view and legal department, but also the committee of the standards. Behind the scenes, in fact, there's a lot of documentation to read, make sure we got this right. So I'd like to move that we adopt this, subject to the amendment that Stacey has pointed out to us, that email addresses are included on the sanctions available to us. Thank you.
Councillor Branton, Mrs. Branton.
Thank you, Chair. Right, well, there's 3 recommendations here, so I presume, councillor, you're going to propose the recommendation is adopt the LGA's model code of conduct with that one amendment. Is that right?
That's correct, Councillor Benson. Yes, it's actually item 5.2 with the amendment.
Right.
Just
Okay.
page 39.
Yes.
Yeah, 5.2.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to say that the whole point about the LGAs as well is that it is reviewed every year. So if something phenomenally unusual comes up in social media or something that's quite concerning, that would absolutely change or turn things on their heads in terms of how any councillor would use social media, then the LGA will be on it and they will be able to give us the advice we need and all councils need in order to make sure that we stay within the bounds of civility and decency for our council. So, you know, it's the best thing of the 3, really. Thank you.
Councillor James.
Can I just second the motion? I don't think you have to.
No, okay. Councillor Back has proposed it. Yeah. Okay, all in favour, please show. And against?
You don't me against, because you'll follow it anyway. Thank you.
And abstentions? No. Thank you, Tom.
That's 27 for and 1 against, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, item 10 is the pay policy requirement of the Localism Act, pages 37 to 72. Oh. Mass exodus at the top table.
Just for tonight.
Okay, so the head of HR, Sarah, is going to lead on this.
So section 38 of the Localism Act 2011 requires English and Welsh local authorities to produce a statutory pay policy statement each financial year. The principle is to increase accountability, transparency and fairness in the setting of local pay. So the pay policy applies to those officers whose terms and conditions reflect those determined by the Joint Negotiating Committee for Chief Officers. So at Torridge District Council, that's the Chief Executive, the Head of Communities in Place, Head of Legal and Governance, and the Finance Manager and Section 151 Officer. The pay for these officers was set as part of the management restructure in 2020 and with external advice from South West Councils, and there has been no amendment since. The Hutton report in 2011 on fair pay in the public sector determined the most appropriate metric for calculating pay dispersion is the multiple of chief executive to median earnings. Should this be greater than 10, this will be reported by the leader to full council for consideration. The current pay multiple is 5.3. It's a requirement to publish the agreed pay statement on the council's website each year, and this report seeks that approval from full council.
Councillor James, you want to sum up, would you, make the recommendation?
Right, thank you, Sarah. I'll move the recommendation. What we're doing is the pay policy is as it is. By accepting the pay policy, we publish it so that there's full transparency. So our issue is not so much what the pay policy is, it's the acceptance of the pay policy and the publication of it as a public document so that everybody knows how it works. And as Sarah said, we're at 5.3, which is a reasonable figure compared to where we are with other councils. So I've moved the recommendation, we accept it.
Councillor Newton, Councillor Newton, is second that, mate. Okay, you've heard the recommendation, it's been proposed and seconded, all in favour, please show. Against? Abstentions?
27 for and 1 abstention.
Thank you. You ask him to come back in again? Okay, item 11 on your agenda is the Appledore Maritime Innovation Centre update. Should have a supplement, I believe. So, hand over to Chief Executive. Sorry, hand over to Adrian. Been promoted.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. This is an update report, and we're aware that you.
Can you speak just a little bit closer into the microphone? You've got a very quietly spoken voice.
How's that? Any better?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Chair. Members will be aware that it's been some time since we've provided you with a formal update on the Appledore Maritime Innovation Centre project. So this is really just an update report for your information, and the report as issued provides the updates. I'm just going to summarise the headlines for you, which basically is that we are making good progress on the ground. A number of you will know that we have completed the demolition, and we're in the final stages of tidying up the site, and that will be completed within the next week or so. There's a photograph on page 2 of your report which shows the status of the project a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, it's moved on a little bit more from that photo, but it gives you an idea of what's been achieved. In parallel with that, the planning application is continuing to run through, and we're currently expecting that to come to full plans committee in July. In parallel with that work, our coastal engineer has been working through the final surveys and documentation required for consent from the MMO, the Marine Management Organisation, for the licenses required for the work in the estuary, and that will allow us to continue with the replacement quay wall works. And of course, throughout this, our procurement team have been working on the selection and appointment of a main contractor for the main build works. Preferred contractors identified now, and officers are currently working through the remainder of the processes required to bring us to a point where we can award a contract with that preferred supplier. And in the meantime, we've obviously had to have regular updates and keep DLUC informed, as the project obviously is funded from Levelling Up. Officers have been routinely involved in meetings with DLUC to keep them updated. And obviously, we've had the benefit of confirmation that their deadline has now been extended to 2026, which is a great help. So
really, the only other things to make you aware of is obviously we're continuing to keep a close eye on costs. Costs continue to escalate, and we are constantly having to look at value engineering to basically try and remain within the parameters that we're working with and achieve the program that obviously we need to achieve completion for spring 2026. The full detailed program, or the sort of headline program, is as set out in your report. And although that remains very tight, we're confident that it's still achievable, but obviously it's a great comfort to us to know that that extension's now been secured from DLUC for the deadline to March 26. In the report, you've also got a summary of expenditure to date, which is just under £700,000 to get us to the point where we currently are. And the next steps are obviously for us to continue with the detailed design and progress with the key wall works and the mobilisation and progressing of the main design and contract for the actual main build. The implications are all as set out in the report, so I don't think we need to go through those. It's really just, as I said at the outset, a report for your information and for you to note the sort of progress that's been made, the revised deadline that's now been confirmed by DLUC, and that we have obviously a commitment to keep you informed of progress as we move through these next stages. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Can I just say before we go on to the members, how impressed I've been with the amount of work that you and the team have done on this to date. I mean, it's been a staggering project to work on. And having visited the site on numerous occasions during the demolition and recently, it's they really cracked on and they're making good progress. So well done. Sorry, who are the hands up here first? Mr. Brenton, I believe.
Thank you. Two questions, please. The first one is the Marine Management Organisation. Where are they based and what does it comprise? I mean, is it a statutory body from government or what exactly is it?
Good question. I'm not sure that they're a statutory body as such, but they're one of these sort of quangos that we have to comply with their requirements. They're a bit like any other agency, government agency, really.
Don't say that.
Pardon?
I'm joking.
Oh, okay.
I understand.
Like a post office.
They obviously look after the works all around the coast and the estuary, and we have to comply with their requirements for the ecology and the safe works in the navigable chains.
This is the first time I've come into their influence. The second one is obviously the planning application goes in July. Well, it's already in, but will be decided in July. These first tier contractors and that, presumably no contracts will be signed or anything like that until that planning permission is approved. Correct. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. We're running the two pieces of work in parallel to obviously try and maintain the programme for the project.
Right. Will it disadvantage us at all if there's any delay over that July decision?
Well, it would compromise the overall programme for sure, but we're confident that we're working through the right processes to maintain that programme at the moment.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Councillor Ford.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, as I've done in the past, I would like to thank the amount of hours and time officers have put into this. Obviously, you're assuring us that all procedures, due diligence has been followed from the outset. Hopefully that is the case, so we don't face any challenges or whatever. Without going, because I'm growing, by the way, so again, commend the effort. And what I would like to say is, if I could meet with you and Sean, see that in the wider picture down there, because what I can see happening, which is relevant to me, and I think it's also relevant to this going forward, is you're going to have a still purse there and it sounds here 200 metres down the road. Now, it's my understanding that, and I've asked Sean a few times, that the dry dock, application was put in for that, and not procedure. Well, I think things are in the offing without disclosing too much, whereby I think a certain gentleman might have purchased a duckery. Now, if that is the case, I'd also like the council to assure me they'll be behind any sensible, rational proposal there, because as I've also mentioned in the past, you've got wrecks like hell in the parlour. So, you know, if we're gonna make it all nice and pretty, let's do the full job and do it well. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Ford. Councillor Haynes?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, given the huge disruption of the demolition process on the site, can you tell us, please, is there a regular monitoring process going on by an ecologist, given the effect, likely effect on bats and other species? Please.
Absolutely. The ecologist was actually on site during all the key stages of demolition, and the important structures that might have had the presence of bats were actually assessed before any work was undertaken, and the ecologist was retained on site while those initial works were progressed, until such time as the ecologist could sign it off and confirm that there were no issues with us progressing. So that work has all been done. That actually took place a couple of months ago, prior to the main removal of those structures.
Sorry, thanks. Has the ecologist actually raised any alarm or anything about? I mean, I can't believe there hasn't been some effect, particularly on bats, which used to inhabit the buildings. We've had no sort of alerts at all from the ecologist.
No concerns whatsoever, and the mitigation measures that we've put in place with the interim bat roosts have not really had any great use either, because the actual number is relatively small, and there's no evidence that they're actually using in the alternative sites that we've provided.
Very good to start. Thank you.
And the bat roosts or the bat watches, I always think if you're a bat, they're like a five-star hotel. They look absolutely brilliant now.
Yeah, so there are no bats.
Councillor Brenton?
Thank you. Well, with the new planning application, removing one layer, how will that affect the business plan for the whole scheme? You know, we were originally told about it, how all the various factors would fit in together in terms of making it viable. But clearly, if you're losing one level, that surely will impact us. When will we get some report on that, how that will affect the whole scheme?
Well, we're working through the detail of that at the moment. The intention is actually to compromise on the overall building footprint without compromising on the net let area. So what we're trying to do is make the actual space more efficient internally, to still maintain the lettable areas and therefore the income and the outputs required for levelling up, without changing the overall scale of the building, so that we can actually trim costs out of the overall build. That's our intention at the moment. A lot of the design originally had to accommodate meter escape, the fire and flooding, for future proofing the building for future sea level rises, and the actual internal accommodation and escape routes has all been designed around that requirement, and we've been looking at ways we can economise on that to try and still meet the requirements without having so much circulation space, therefore increasing the net let areas that are available.
Lifeboats on the wall then?
Not quite that, but
Sounds like it.
Councillor Lavelle, have you got your hand up?
Are these changes?
Just stand up.
Sorry. Are these changes going to have a detrimental effect on the planning application going through in July? If they're changing the planning, or is it? If the plans are already trundling along, is this changing planning?
I think I've got the gist of the question. The whole point is that any changes to the scheme will be discussed with the planning officer who's responsible for the case as the designs develop, so that we're not introducing anything that won't be acceptable going through
Okay, well, we don't need to, sorry.
I'm thank you, thank you. It's really interesting to hear about, the summary of spend. But from my perspective, would have liked to see it broken down into the three items that are there. Is there any reason why that can't happen?
It can happen, we can provide that separately if that's helpful. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, there's no need to vote on this, it's purely for reporting, so thank you. Adrian. Thank you. Report, look forward to future ones. Okay, moving on to item 12, is to answer questions submitted under procedural rule A9. We have two questions, not for debate, they're just for receiving. The first one is, which get me given first? Councillor Haynes? Or Councillor Ford? Councillor Haynes?
Thank you. I think I've the right to ask a supplementary, is that?
You do indeed, yes.
Right, we'll get it down here. Given the excessive and unacceptable amount of time since the planning application was registered, for 36 houses at Wood Road, Appledore, and repeated assurances to me over the period that determination was imminent, can we be assured that this will happen within the next month, please? And I have a written reply.
You certainly will. We'll get a written reply on that. We'll get the planning manager to reply to that. Okay, Councillor Ford?
Yeah, thanks, Chair.
You have a secretary, you have a?
I could do, but I don't really want to waste your time or, I'd like to entertain you, but maybe I've got better to do, it's quite fair. I would just say, I've got what I expected, basically generic piffle, all right?
Thank you. Right, received, item 13, receive petitions, if any, have any petitions? Item 14, moves of motion, we've got the first one from Councillor Thomas. Councillor Thomas?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. I won't take up too much of your time. Well, as far as I'm concerned, it's just a matter of principle, really. The introduction of proportional representation and just making our electoral systems more democratic. I mean, the current system first past the post is very antiquated. Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales have already introduced or are introducing single transferable vote, which has increased turnout in local elections in Scotland, I think it was. As members will be aware, I mean, you might think, what's it got to do with us at a local level? Because I think it's something that applies across the board, but I think it does also apply at a local level, increasing in getting people more invested in elections and getting people more involved in local democracy. I was elected back in May, and I was probably more surprised than anyone else when I was elected. I didn't have any expectation of being elected. And then we look at the figures. Turnout in Bideford East, 26.2%, which actually I find quite embarrassing. I got 387 votes, less than 10% of the electorate voted for me, yet I'm here representing them. So I think our system needs improvement. And I really think bringing in some kind of system of proportional representation will help give voters the sense that they've got more chance of having a say. And you might think, it's just the smaller parties trying to sort of get, muscle in, but it isn't really. I mean, if you look at the figures for Bideford East, we had 3 councillors elected and another 5 standing. We had 3 Conservative candidates, got just under 300 votes, 257, nearly 200. So they're not represented. Yeah, combined, they got more votes than I did. So if you had a fairer electoral system where people can actually vote candidates in order of preference, you'd probably have a Conservative representing Bideford East. Maybe not a Green Party councillor, who knows? So I think it's just a matter of principle. Either you think our democratic system should be fairer or it shouldn't. That's all I've really got to say on that.
Thank you.
Kill the independent.
No, second.
Thank you, okay. No one else wants to speak? It's been proposed and seconded. All in favour, in support of councillor Thomas's motion, please show. And against? And abstentions? And the numbers, Tom?
There's 12 for, 14 against and 2 abstentions.
Okay. Very lost. The next notice of motion then is from councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you've had an eloquent, as usual, presentation from Mr. Steer about the proposed railway link. He was very polite and didn't mention that I misnamed yet again the alliance. It shouldn't be North Devon Railway Alliance, it should be the Northern Devon. So may I make my own amendment to that? Yeah, just as though our decision to support the alliance would align with other local councils who've done the same thing and help strengthen the campaign to restore the Bideford Barnstaple rail link. Contributing, it is hoped, to a reduction in car use and hence a reduction in air pollution and contributing to a mitigation of climate change. So I urge councillors to complete our support and join the alliance. Thank you.
Councillor Brunton?
Yes, I'd second it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I would like to speak.
Certainly.
Right.
Yeah.
To do so. Well, it's good this has come back again. In the early 2000s, it was quite a hot topic actually, because North Devon didn't want any mechanism whereby the design for the new bridge they've got in Barnstaple would have blocked off any possibility of resurrecting the line. And it was, Torridge actually was against the bridge in Barnstaple for that very reason. And it caused a lot of animosity between North Devon and Torridge. And so the county also were not in favour of having any system where we could resurrect the line. In fact, they sent up a mob-handed bunch of people from Exeter, and they were going to, because I put down a notice of motion that we should make sure that the line could be reinstated. And I withdrew my notice of motion, and they all had to go back to Exeter empty-handed with no debate taking place. But that's how tense and tight it was. But I mean, the report that was done in 1999 did show that it was feasible at some stage to reopen that line and keep the cycleway at the same time. And I would really love, before I die, I would like to see that happen, you know, because I think it should. And of course, the line itself is such a beautiful run. I mean, how can you not, you know, use money on that really now? Plus, of course, the commuting advantage it would give to Bideford in particular. So I do think it would be great if it happens. Now, my information is on the grapevine from, I do have a son-in-law whose brother works for the big hierarchies in the rail industry, in the government one, and we are on the list, but we're unfortunately quite a way down, but we can push it up. If we got the partnerships to go with it, it can be pushed up the list, and I look forward to that happening.
Thank you, councillor Bradford. Councillor Andrews?
I've heard a lot about this, but do we have any idea what this is actually going to cost?
Yeah. Well, I've not, actually, the actual, this is actually up for discussion tonight. Notice of motions has been proposed and seconded, but it was government funded money, and you're probably talking hundreds of millions of pounds to do it. So it's nothing that Torridge are going to be involved in directly to fund, I can assure you that. I mean, speaking personally, I think, you know, I agree, we'd all love to see the railway reinstated. But can I just be clear that if we vote in support of this tonight, that means it'll go to CNR for them to actually do a report and come back again. So so it's been proposed by councillor Haynes.
Chair, Is it really need to go to see?
All reports are recommendations to the relevant committee, yes. That's the way
Expressing
it
our
goes.
support. Did our recent vote go to CNR?
I believe we did, yeah.
Chairs, we just need to establish whether there are any implications for Torridge of joining the alliance. As you work with the alliance.
Just the expression of, our support. It's not, no other, no financial.
Yeah. So that, hopefully that'll be the report that comes back to CNR then, and then it'll be then confirmed.
Chair, can I just ask a question?
Very briefly, but it's not meant to be a debate on this, so go on then.
Just on that point, the motion that councillor Christie raised about South West Water was passed by this council back in December. Did that go to CNR?
For them to come and do a presentation here.
No, we passed a recommendation to do with asking South West Water to justify their lack of response to planning application. You're saying that every motion goes to CNR?
If there is a potential for a cost.
There's no.
Well, we don't know that yet, do we? To be honest.
I mean, Northern Town Council was supposed to support, there's no cost associated at all, that's support.
It's been proposed and it's been seconded. I'm going to take it to the vote, actually. So councillor Haynes should propose that, councillor Brenton seconded it. All in favour, all in support. And against? And abstentions?
Yeah.
Bottom there.
It's just as 9 people for against and 5 abstentions.
Thank you, which clearly carries. Thank you. Moving on.
Can I say on point of information, I think that vote is important because it does mean that if this council supports this, which it does now, that it does make a difference to when we go forward to apply for funding.
If nothing else, it gives a huge amount of moral support. It does. Okay. That's the end of the meeting, then at 7:20.